Hey there, guys. This is Flamzeron, aka YouTube's Tasuke. Now, you're probably thinking, this is super old, man. You probably need to be quicker with your reviews, but I can do things how I want. But the reason why this one in particular took so late, because I think I might have talked about doing it before, but I did actually record like a partial review of it, but it had been a while and I didn't remember much, so I actually decided to read it again, just so I could be a little more updated with things. My general view of the story and whatnot is still the same, but I wanted to actually refresh myself on the plot. So I am going to review today Jaco the Galactic Patrolman, the first manga from Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, and I think it probably in like 20 or so years. Like it had been a while, and I know a lot of people are wondering does it take place after Dragon Ball? And I guess you will have to watch the review and find out then, won't ya? Won't ya? But anyway, so Jaco the Galactic Patrolman, it's a manga about this galactic patrolman named Jaco, and he's flying around through space, and suddenly he crashes on an island. It starts off with this guy named Omori. He's an old man. He's just living on this island and doing stuff, and he sees a Jaco ship crash down. And so he goes like, "Oh, what's up?" And like, "Oh, you're weird. Who the fuck are you?" "Oh, I'm Jaco, the Galactic Patrolman." But Jaco's ship is broken, so Omori has to come in and fix it. And it's at this point that we get a lot of insight on who Omori is. He's a scientist working for the government, trying to make I believe it was they were trying to make a time machine, and or they were trying to make something. I don't remember if it was specifically a time machine, but it goes wrong. Omori's wife and his comrades or his colleagues are killed, and Omori's been secretly working on a time machine and having a lot of trouble in order to go back in time and fix them, or and bring his wife and friends back. They kind of explained that, sort of like sprinkled in like the first few moments, but we also kind of learn a bit about Jaco, like what all he can do. He's got a little laser blaster thing. He's got a little button that can like destroy all of humanity. And it's kind of funny how like Omori, he talks about how like he hates humans, but as soon as like Jaco like brings up the extinction button like capsule thing, he's like, no, like people are cool. You can trust some people. I just found that kind of funny how like suddenly he like switches. I mean, I guess it makes sense because we're talking about like the entire destruction of humanity. So, and so Omori he deduces that in order to fix the machine, he needs a certain kind of metal called sky gold that costs a hell of a lot of yen. In this story, they use yen. I don't know why I'm telling you that. I'm kind of hinting at things, I guess, when you think about Akira Toriyama. But I guess at this point, there's no real secret as its connections to Dragon Ball, especially if you've been watching Super or if you've seen Resurrection F, or if you're going to see Resurrection F, because Jaco's in those. But anyway, and so at that point, Omori's like, let's go get. I'm gonna go to the grocery store. Let's go get some groceries, because Jaco, he's done some research on Earth, and he's deduced that milk and cheese are the two things that he's used to eating. That's like the closest equivalent to what he normally eats. And so they go into town to get food, and Jaco's like dressed up in like this trench coat and hat, and it's kind of funny. There's some funny scenes with that, because like he likes to show like his knowledge. Like there's one point where Omori is like in the shop while Jaco's standing outside with this little boy and his dog, and he says, "I know what you are. You're a boy, and that's a dog." And the kid's like, "Yeah." But of course, during this point, Jaco, like this thug steals this woman's purse. And of course, Jaco, he being a galactic patrolman and a man of justice, he's like, I can't just ignore that. So he helps with that. And the reason why I'm explaining that bit is because there's one part where there's this girl who's being harassed by these like thugs. They're not gonna like kill her, at least not yet. But they're all like, "Hey, you bumped into me. You have to hang out with us." And she's like, "Ew, no, I don't want to hang out with you. Fuck." She doesn't say fuck, but and Jaco comes in to help. He beats up the thugs, but then the police show up and they just think that like this guy just started beating people up, and so they attack Jaco, but he beats up them, or like Jaco assumes that the police are with the bad guys, quote unquote, so he beats them up as well. And then Omori, he catches up with him, like, "What the fuck did you just do? You know, like, what the heck did you just do? You beat a policeman." And so they have to like escape, and Tights, she's the chick, by the way, she introduces herself as Tights, and she kind of helps them escape, and then Jaco uses like this little like flying thing to take both Tights and Omori back to a little port thing, and Tights goes with them. And she's able to kind of figure it out that Jaco's an alien. And so it's funny, then like the next day she goes back into town and she brings back all her stuff, as well as some of the groceries. Like she suggests that she goes out to like buy the milk and cheese and peanuts, because Omori likes peanuts. And we're not talking about the Tales of Hearts peanuts, sort of. It's a similar. I feel like that joke in particular is sort of like a double. It's sort of like a double pun, because like, you know, at first, like when the whole penis thing gets brought up, Jaco's just kind of like smirking and chuckling and giggling at the word peanuts, because, you know, it kind of sounds like penis in both English and Japanese. But then later he explains, like, in my language, peanuts means a woman's left butt cheek or something. And so Tights also comes back with her stuff because she's going to move in, as well as like a little bit of sky gold. And so that's they're able to kind of do a little bit. It's still not enough to like. They need like a lot more sky gold to really get the entire thing working. It's just enough to do a little bit. And then after that, like after Jaco like does like a little test run, he ends up crashing again and breaking the antenna, causing more damage. So now Jaco is even further stuck, and they're just trying to kind of figure out the sky gold thing. I feel like they kind of have a general plan of like, Omori just be like, I'll make something and I'll make money off of that gradually. Like with the antenna, you know, that one they're kind of trying to figure things out with. Now earlier in the story, something I kind of missed was this government guy. I think his name is Yada Duke. I think his name. I don't remember his name, but he kind of looks like he has like glasses and like straightened hair and like a suit and whatnot, and he has black hair and whatnot. He's like this government guy, and he's all like, "Omori, you're illegally on this island. You need to leave within a week because the government wants to turn it into a resort." And Omori's like, and then the other guy's like, they don't actually say that, but. And so that's one problem that's coming up. But then there's another little thing going on. There's this idol named An Azuki, and she has this friggin' song about rockets and seeing bunnies on the moon, which is a reference to Dragon Ball, because Boss Rabbit is on the moon, or he's supposed to be on the moon. And she's like, I bought a red swimsuit, but I can't swim in the Milky Way. And he's like, go, go, rocket, rocket, go. Fly into his heart. Wing, blink, drank too much. And in the bio, like, when they say, like, her likes, it has beer crossed out. Actually, I think it's kind of funny because she's, like, 16. And she sings her little song. And it's kind of funny because, like, they say it's a really dumb song, but, like, Jaco keeps singing it. He's like, go, go, rocket, rocket, go. It's kind of funny. And it turns out that they're doing this thing with Anazuki where she's supposed to go into space, but the ship doesn't really have a really high success rate. it's like 60%, and so obviously they can't like have a real idol go up there and then die, and so they have Tights as like her stunt double. That's sort of like her big job, and that's how she was able to afford the Sky Gold. And she can't really back out. Her logic is she can't back out of it now because she's already spent the money, so it's kind of a done deal, which makes sense. And so she's going to she goes off to like do her little Onizuki cosplay thing, you know, whatever. Like she goes and she acts as Onizuki's double, and then the government people, they come back, and it's kind of funny, a bit of Jaco's personality. He takes a lot of pride in him being like the super elite space warrior, and after like the police report was filed and like they're like doing information on him, and they have like this like really bad drawing on him. He's like, we decided to call him Mask Man, and Jaco's like, that's not my name. That's crap. They're insulting me. How dare they? And so it's kind of one of the more funnier scenes. The government official guy comes back. It's something UK. I know that much. That's that much I remember, and I don't particularly care to look it up during the recording because that's unprofessional, even though I do it anyway. But at any rate, and so he comes back and he's all like, okay, it's time for you to... You know, what ends up happening is that like he suspects that because he saw a glimpse of Jaco as he was leaving the island beforehand, because Jaco threw a rock at their ship, because like Jaco's like, are those people mean? And Amori's like, yeah, and just chucks a rock at their ship and like makes it sink. And so the UK guy or whatever, the government guy who kind of looks like Gohan, sort of, he remembers what Jaco looks like, and he's like, oh, I'll capture him. And so he brings like this special force ninja group, and he goes to Amori and he's all like, I'll cut to the chase. Come out where you are, Masked Man, he shouts. I know you're here. And Jaco's like on top of a cliff where he can't be seen, and he doesn't say anything, and Amori's like, see, I told you he's not here. But then Jaco's like, I won't come down until you stop calling me Masked Man. And then the government guy's like, oh, well, what should I call you then? Call me Super Elite. Okay, come down, Super Elite. And then he comes down and he beats up everybody. And of course, then like during that, because Jaco has to move kind of quickly, they learn that the ship, that the rocket that Tights is on is actually failed and it's falling, because Jaco has like supersonic hearing or whatever. Supersonic hearing. He doesn't need a hearing aid. No, I don't know. And so they need to rescue Tights and the captain guy, and it's gonna, if it crashes on like the city, it's gonna like make like this big explosion or whatever. And so what they end up doing is that Jaco and Amori use Amori's like time machine, which can only do a little bit. It can just like pause time for like 50 seconds, and they use that to stop the ship while it's moving, and they use a Jaco ship so that they can like catch up to it, so that Jaco can like go into the ship and like rescue the captain and Tights, which they end up doing. And then the government guy is all like, oh well, okay, we can forgive you for all your stuff, and you can stay on the island now, and I'll have them draw a better picture and have them call you Super Elite. Of course, the picture they end up drawing is actually a little bit worse. And so that kind of solves that problem, more or less. Now, this is where the series this manga tries to kind of connect to Dragon Ball. Because early on it's explained that the reason why Jaco was heading towards Earth was because he caught, the Galactic Patrol people caught a glimpse of a brutal alien heading towards Earth. Of course, if you know what Dragon Ball is, you can kind of tell who that brutal alien is. Brutal in quotes, mind you. And it's just kind of them it starts off with them kind of trying to figure out, this next chapter, I mean, is about them trying to figure out Jaco's ship, or his airplane or whatever. I guess ship is a pretty good name for it. And then Tights reveals that she's actually, part of the she's the daughter of Dr. Brees from Capsule Corporation, because they're trying to like find like they're trying to find a way to make money, and they're trying to like they can, oh, what if we sell like the blueprints to something, or what if we sell it to something? We need someone trustworthy. Like, oh, I'm Tights Brief from Capsule Corporation, and at that point, they show off. They introduce Dr. Briefs and Miss Briefs. I think her name is Panty. I think it's supposed to be Panty. Then Bulma shows up as like a little kid. And of course, beforehand, it's revealed that, Jaco is indeed looking for, a Saiyan from Planet Vegeta. And it's Goku. It's supposed to be Goku. And he's kind of like standing watch. But, then like, Tights comes up and he's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm waiting for the Saiyan. And it's like, oh, by the way, this part I actually kind of remember, because this is actually kind of recent. She's all like, that's a nice little bodysuit. He's like, that's not a bodysuit, it's my skin. She's like, so you were naked the entire time? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, where do you pee from? And then like little squirts of like urine comes out of his, like, pours on his head, and it squirts her in the forehead. And he's all like, I pee from here. And then she like shoves him off. He's like, you just peed on me. And like it shows Jaco like emerging from the water. And it's like, that's really dangerous. He could have just flown by. And of course, like in the top panel, you see Goku's space pod like go flying across, and they show a little extra panel of Goku. This is like sort of like a flash forward, like Goku in like Saiyan armor eating a bunch of food with Grandpa Gohan, and he's like, oh, you don't have much manners, do you? I guess I'll have to teach you. Oh, you don't have a name? I'll give you something. And they revealed that like Grandpa Gohan named Goku because apparently Ku means sky, and of course Goku fell from the sky. So he's like, okay, I'll call you Son Goku. Yay! And then we go back to Jaco. Basically, Bulma, this little 5-year-old Bulma, has been able to fix the antenna, as well as figure out that they didn't necessarily need sky gold, but they needed like something that was similar to like the a metal that was similar to the kind of metal that Jaco used to power his spaceship, which was like copper. And then it's like, so wait, so you didn't need all that money? So they're able to fix everything basically. And then Jaco, he goes on his merry way, and then it shows like a little like update thing, like, oh, Amori got a bunch of money from Dr. Briefs that was like over 1 billion yen or something. And then the friggin' government guy comes to live with Amori and becomes like a servant, like a butler or whatever. Like he cooks and whatnot. Tights, she wanted to be a sci-fi novelist, so she's been writing. She like writes stuff about sci-fi. And they make kind of a joke, like the novel that she based off of Jaco didn't do very well. But she kind of comes back, and Jaco comes back to show everyone a picture of his girlfriend, who looks exactly like him. And then they have a thing of Bulma showing up. And this is where the series gets a little... it kind of conflicts with something already established in the manga of Dragon Ball. As they explain, like, later on, like, Tights, she's actually already graduated college or university or whatever. And Bulma's still, like, a little baby, like, when she first shows up in the manga. But then they do a flash forward with, like, a little, like, here's what we've all been up to lately. And they show Bulma, like, right before she's getting ready to start where she's looking for the Dragon Balls, and right before she meets Goku. They say she's already graduated university, where in the manga, I believe she was... I don't even think she was in college. I think she was in high school. Like, she was skipping, too, so it's like, you could kind of tell that school wasn't really that important to her, so I guess it was just sort of like I guess it was just a bit of a thing. I don't know. Maybe she went back. I think that's just like a thing that Akira Toriyama just forgot about. And then the big meat of this thing, or one thing in particular, is Dragon Ball Mind. It's a bonus chapter as well, where it shows it. They actually reveal Goku's mom, Gine, which is a play off of a Negi. And so we finally actually see Goku's mom. It's not Fasha or Selpia or whatever you want to call her. It's actually a whole new character who kind of looks a little bit like Selpia or Fasha or whatever, a little bit. And basically what ends up happening is that all the Saiyans are called back to go to Planet Vegeta by Frieza, and Frieza is all like, it shows that he's talking about like Super Saiyan, the Super Saiyan God. So the whole thing with him being afraid of the Super Saiyan is true, but now they've also added in the Super Saiyan God. I think it was probably just to tie in better with Battle of Gods, and also to kind of give Frieza a little bit more depth. And so they do that, and then like Bardock, instead of having his little like see the future thing, like he kind of has a bad feeling, and so he sends off Goku away, and they have Raditz hanging out with Vegeta, and he's like, shouldn't we go back to Planet Vegeta? And Vegeta's like, no, I'm just gonna ignore it. And I assume Raditz, or Raditz, I assume Nappa was probably doing something. And I'll get more into my critiques later on, but I do want to note one thing about this, is that in terms of the canon of Dragon Ball, like, the general thing that's canon is the manga. Like there's a, like, the filler content isn't necessarily part of the canon. Since this is Akira Toriyama's story, he can do what he wants with it. So for those of people who are going to be complaining, like, it's not a retelling of Bardock, the father of Goku, where, like, he sees the future and whatnot, well, that wasn't necessarily canon. In fact, early on in the manga, Bardock wasn't even canon at all until, like, Goku first showed up on Namek, or Goku first saw Frieza in his final form. That's when Bardock was technically canon. Like, he showed up, and I mean, of course, there's a lot of, like, meta stuff. Like, for all we know, Akira Toriyama could consider everything canon. I don't know. But, that's my view on it. So I didn't really think too much about any, like, inconsistencies or anything like that. Plus, that isn't to say that they could still keep what kind of happened in Bardock, the father of Goku. I mean, obviously they would probably have to change him, like, seeing the future. Though I think that was actually kind of cool, and probably change it to where he actually cares about his son, because that's one thing about Bardock and Gine they established, is that while most Saiyans really only cared about, you know, having sex and whatnot for the sake of reproduction, Bardock and Gine were actually they were in love. So, like, they were different. I feel like Akira Toriyama is trying to make Goku seem as special as possible, which is okay, I suppose. So I kind of like him just being like this naturally gifted person, and not make him seem like he's like this special person or anything like that. And I will go and say one of my complaints with Dragon Ball Minus is Goku's design. One, I don't really like him wearing the Saiyan armor. And two, like, I think he's supposed to be a baby, but, like, he doesn't really look like a baby. Like, he looks like he's just a little bit older, and, like, he looks a little longer too. And because of that, I feel like I don't really like that. I think he should have just been a baby, that, like, who was just born or something. That's what I think, in my opinion. So that's my real only issue with Dragon Ball Minus. Like I said, like, any inconsistencies with Bardock, the father of Goku, I think do not matter, because, again, the only thing that's canon from that movie is Bardock himself. That's really the only thing. I mean, and so, like, Dragon Ball Minus is probably as close to, like, a Dragon Ball origin story that we've got. Though, like, basically what I'm trying to say is, like, you know, just because it doesn't match up with the anime doesn't mean it's not canon. Like, remember, the anime, it's the anime adaptation. It doesn't necessarily make a new canon, in my opinion. I know there are a lot of different, like, viewpoints on, like, what's canon and what's not. My general viewpoint is, like, whatever is in the manga that gets retold, and what Akira Toriyama tries to add to it is canon. I mean, if it were up to me, I'd probably like work stuff around a little bit, but it's not really up to me. So that's the general plot of Jaco the Galactic Patrolman. Overall, I enjoyed it. It was pretty funny. I can definitely tell that Akira Toriyama's style has really improved, though I feel like it kind of drifts a little bit more towards his Dragon Quest designs, where the characters have a little bit bigger heads and they look kind of slimmer and not as muscular. With certain characters in the Jaco part, you can kind of see that, like, yeah, they're muscular, and in Dragon Ball Minus, he kind of uses like more muscular characters, so they still look kind of lanky and bony, in my opinion. And like in terms of like the general look of the manga, because if you remember my Dragon Ball manga like review thingy, I said that it was a really easy read and there wasn't too much shading, like it was mainly just ink. He uses some ink here, like specifically on the government guy's hair and Jaco's like bodysuit. Like he just inks that in, but there's also like little bits of shading as well. It's still not like super high quality like art. Like it's not gonna look like certain manga where it's like it just looks like it's like art on a page or anything. It still kind of has like that simplistic Akira Toriyama like Dragon Ball quote unquote style. Because I know like it's really with Dragon Ball that with the manga that he kept things like with Dragon Quest. Yeah, he does really good designs there, and of course his designs in general are really good. But in Jaco, you can tell that he's putting a little bit more effort into it, which is cool. There's more shading. I say shading, but it's like manga shading, where it's like it's kind of, I don't know, it's like digital shading. I think I didn't really notice it at first, but after reading it again, I can definitely see some differences, and so it looks nice. But yeah, my only complaints being like with Dragon Ball Minus, I don't really like Goku's size because he looks a little too old, and I also don't like how the non-muscular characters kind of look like they belong in Dragon Quest more than they do Dragon Ball, or I guess Jaco for that matter. Of course, the Jaco's like its own thing, but yeah. I would recommend it, especially if you like Dragon Ball or if you just like Akira Toriyama. Like, Sandland was also another. I still need to actually finish Sandland because I only read like a part of it when it was in Shonen Jump. But yeah, that's Jaco the Galactic Patrolman, and he's going to be in Super, and he's in Resurrection F's, and he's in Xenoverse as well. So Jaco's here to stay. So yeah, that's what I have to say on it. This is Flamesron, aka YouTube Sasuke, signing out. See you later.